What is up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Landscaping Podcast. Today's episode will be brought to you by myself, Shay. I'm going to hit this one solo from the truck. Now, I am in our 18-wheeler. We just hauled some tires to a tire recycling facility. We have a tire hauling division to our company, and it has one of those things that just kind of came about through some other contracts we had. Got asked if we could do it, and it's outside, so we do it. And that's kind of where we're at with this. But this particular haul today and a challenge that I am in this month has got me thinking about time management, as well as some things that I've been dealing with in the business and outside the business and for the business, has got me really thinking about time management this month. So I want to talk about that today. I've got my headset on. If you're watching this on YouTube, you'll see me in the truck. The DJI Osmo is doing the recording for us. And I'm going to talk about it, time management today, because this is what I'm doing. I'm managing my time, and I'm trying to get this podcast recorded, because I know that spring is here, and the green industry is full force. Once mid-March hits, April hits, you don't have time to stop and think. So it's all about managing your time efficiently. All right, so let's dive right into this. Start off with, here recently I had the opportunity to speak at an event, which took some time out of our work schedule, which means I had to do a lot of planning to make sure that things were going as planned before I left to go to the speaking event. Make sure all the crews are spending their time wisely, getting the jobs done efficiently, satisfying the customer. Because what good would speaking at these events do if our own company was failing to meet the expectations and the standards that our company has set? And so we had to really spend a lot of time on the forefront of that, planning all that out. Also, in the process of all this, I was studying for my general contractor's license in North Carolina, where I qualified and passed the test for a building contractor. And so I did that this past Wednesday, and I'm super excited about that. This will be the first time I've really talked about that. Friends and family know I took that test, and they're aware that I passed, but I really haven't talked about it a whole lot. It's one of those things that I really just wanted to achieve, and once I actually get the license in my name and I have the license number, then I'll probably talk about it a lot more. So if you listen to this on the podcast, you're probably the first people to really hear this. But yeah, Landscaping Unlimited is moving in the direction to be a licensed building contractor. And you're probably asking yourself, well, why are you becoming a building contractor? This podcast is in the green industry. And to sum that up, we do a lot of things outdoors, and occasionally we hit a little area where the landscape contractor license doesn't quite cover what the building contractor license will cover, and some jobs that we're able to do or not able to do based upon our licensing. And so we're going to make it where we don't have to worry about that anymore, because now we're a few small steps away from actually getting that license number and adding that to the side of our truck and hanging that certificate in our office. So I'm excited about that. And we'll dive more into licensing. That's something I really want to cover on this podcast. I want to dive into each particular license and what it entails and why they're important in our industry and where the caps are and the limits are, and then to be an advocate for the industry, because I think that as landscapers we need to be advocates for it. So getting back to time management, because all of this is stemmed from that, is I had a lot of time studying, I had a lot of time preparing for a presentation, and I had a lot of time talking with the guys and the crew about doing all the things that we need to do within the company. We've also had a lot of equipment break over the past few weeks. No fault of anyone, just sometimes things just don't go the way you plan. Weather doesn't go the way you plan. Equipment sometimes breaks and malfunctions. And how you get around all that is making sure that you don't have any downtime that you're not using efficiently. And so we're going to hit this in topics based upon, from a business side, if you're owner-operator, what you should do as an owner-operator to manage your time. And I'm not saying I'm going to hit all of them, because managing time in every business, is crucial to that business and is specific to that business as to what it is you need to be doing to make your company run the most efficient. But I'm going to hit on some of the things that I think are important and that will help everyone, no matter where you're at. One of them started off, this is the most important, so don't forget it. Separate business from your personal life. and manage those times separately and accordingly. Try to keep those separate. Your family time and your personal life is just as important as your business. If your business succeeds, but your family is failing at the expense of that, and it's due to time, then what was the point of building this business if your family wasn't the most important thing to you? So, want to hit on that. I think that's important. Take time, put it towards your family, and manage that time efficiently, and your business will probably succeed far beyond what you could ever have dreamed of, because you're happy at home. And so manage that time well. That is one thing that I've started to learn. I used to spend all my time into the business, and I would miss afternoons with my son. Yesterday he ran up to me and wanted to play catch, and I was super excited to get home and play catch with him. But it all has come to a little shift that I've had where I've started managing my time differently, which makes my day a lot better today when I'm at work, because I'm not worried about my family missing me, because they know when I get home I'm going to be intentional and spend that time with them. And so, number one, don't forget that, and I will leave it at that. Number two, everything you do should be intentional. So if you're at work and you have a goal, and part of the presentation that we were speaking in the Turfgrass Council was talking about goals and setting those clearly, and making sure that when you set a goal, you had everyone on your team aligned with that goal, and also making sure your team members had their own goals, and you could align those two goals together so that you could both win. And that's important when you run a company, because company means a group of people. That's what company is. When you say you're having company over, it's a group of people over. When you're running a company, it is a group of people running that business. It's not one person, it's a group of people. And so you have to be intentional that when you set these goals and you start running out your schedules and you're managing your time, that everyone has their own particular thing that they have to do. And you're intentional with that time, because you only have, if you're working 40-hour work weeks, you only have 40 hours during the work week to get a lot of things done. In the green industry, the weather doesn't always play in our favor. We're always dealing with rain. We're dealing with the wind, where you can't spray particular herbicides if you're out there spraying herbicides, pesticides, and fungicides and things out there in the chemical program side of things. Weather is your biggest enemy, but it's also your biggest friend. And so you have to be intentional with your time and make sure that you're hitting those windows correctly. So as a business owner, you have to make sure that your guys know what it is they're supposed to do, when they're supposed to do it. Be intentional with your plan and intentional with your goals. That way, when you start laying down the schedule for the week, everyone knows what it is they have to do. Now, when it's going to rain, you should have a policy in place to where your guys know if you have to work 40 hours that week, and you have a rain and you have to make things up, well, now you're crunched for time. Your guys should know that. They should be aware of the policy, the backup plan. For us, I'll kind of give it a little insight to our company. We work 4 10-hour days. That is what we base our work week on. So we're Monday through Thursday, 7 to 6. Get 1 hour taken out for breaks and lunch, and so we work 10-hour days. This past week, we had tornadoes forecasted, terrible winds. It was going to be raining, so our guys took off because there wasn't really a whole lot we could do. If we had cleaned up a lawn, we would have been right back out there cleaning up a lawn again. But the guys know that if we miss a day earlier in the week, then Friday is the day that we make that up. And so they already knew. We missed Monday, we took Monday off, they're coming on Friday. Now, I'm not saying that if they had something they already planned, because Friday is typically the day they have off, that we wouldn't work with them. We would do that. If they have doctor's appointments, they have trips planned, they let us know, hey, we didn't plan on working today. And so we are going to work with them and make sure that things are right. And so that's one of those things that becomes important with managing time, is that they already know that up front. When they got hired, it was in the employee handbook. We talked about the hours. During the week, when we realized that the weather was going to be bad and we started predicting that we may not work that day, they already knew to either let me know they had something planned that Friday and they wouldn't be here, or to try to move it and shift it around so that they could work and get the hours in that they needed. And so that is being transparent with your employees. That's making sure that your time is managed well on the job so that things are done right, and making sure that you've got weather factored into that to the smallest percent there, because you you can never really control weather. You're just out there dealing with it. And so when things like that come up, and you have to talk to the guys, there's no surprises. They know they're supposed to work. They know they're having off, and then they can plan their days as well, because it's not just about the company. We've already clarified that company means a group of people. So you can't think about just meeting the criteria of the company. You have to meet the criteria of the team that you're working with too, that they've got things they got to do. Their kids got ball games. Their kids or maybe they're coaching the Little League team. And so every day at 6:30 or something like that, they might have practice. So you have to make sure that you're trying to schedule that around that as well, because they have a life outside of work. And it's important that you merge those two together and you understand that, so that you don't lose track of things and lose what's truly important in life. And that brings it all back to what I talked about with family at the beginning of this thing. As a business owner, you have to separate that. Well, as employees, they have to separate that as well. So it's a twofold thing. It's not just one-sided. It's a relationship, and you have to keep that going, and you have to manage that time efficiently and productively. The other thing is if you're going to have consecutive bad weather days, it's not a bad idea to pay your guys to come in and service all the equipment. We've dropped the podcast, I think it was on a podcast. It might have just been a discussion we dropped on our Instagram, on our Facebook. But Zach was talking about a previous time when he worked with us a couple of years ago, and how on bad days when everyone else would go home, he would stay. And he got a bunch of slack over it, because he was saying that he was sucking up and that he was getting all the brownie points, putting in all the effort, but not getting any of the reward, making the company a bunch of money, and we weren't rewarding him for it. And it's quite the opposite. He was there because he saw a need to do the things that needed to be done as far as servicing equipment or progressing and learning things within the company, so that when we were back at work, he could continue things moving in a good, productive pace to make up for the time that we were down, and talking to customers or responding to emails or getting on our socials and updating that stuff, or servicing our equipment. We use a lot of equipment out here, and I just talked about how a bunch of it broke here recently. Some of that may have been prevented by a little bit more proactive maintenance, where we had managed our time a little better. We wouldn't be down as much. And so that's one of those things that if you're going to have consecutive days, think about it. Is it really worth just cutting labor costs today and just sending them all home? Or should you look at some of that labor cost as, I'm going to keep the guys happy because they're going to get a paycheck, and I'm going to use the time that they're here to be proactive and get everything ready to go, because now we're short today on hours. We're short this week on the amount of productive hours we can do. Let's make sure next week we don't have anything break. Let's find all of the flaws that might be in our equipment. Let's check the engine oil. Let's check the air filters. Let's check the air pressure. In the tires, if we're running pneumatic tires, if we're running twills, then you don't have much to worry about, because you're not going to have a flat tire. But it's being efficient in that time, and making sure that you're setting yourself up for success when the time comes. And you're probably thinking, man, that's a lot of labor that I'm not billing out today. Yeah, but it's also a lot of labor that you're not paying next week where you're down, because you've made sure that things are ready to go. Checking oil in the trucks. If you've got a shop, you're pulling them in there and you're checking belt tension. You're going ahead and topping off windshield wiper fluid. You're really making sure you're looking at all the tires on the trucks, make sure they're wearing even. Maybe you can schedule a front end alignment the next day that it's raining. I know we have a really good relationship with a local shop that's local to us, that's been in business for many years, and a lot of times on rain days is the days that we'll try to schedule, hey, go get these tires swapped out on that day, because then our trucks aren't down during the working day. And that's one of those things, that's managing time and being efficient with that. And so that's another thing that's really important. The other thing to that is materials. Getting materials on and off the job, if you're in the hardscape side of things, not just the lawn maintenance side. And this can even go lawn maintenance as well, if you're dealing pine straw, mulch, river rock, doing some mulching these flower beds, or you're a chemical guy and you're having to get chemicals and you have to go to your supply house to buy them. Time out of the day to go get supply in a pretty day means you're not spraying, which means you're not making any money. So you need to pre-plan your applications if you're on the chemical side of things, and go out there and get all your chemicals that you need on those bad days. That way you're not wasting a good spray day going around getting getting chemicals. You're doing your water test. You make sure your pH is right. You're getting your adjuvants. You're getting your surfactants. You're getting all that stuff calculated and dialed in, and testing on those bad days so that the good days are spent being productive. On the lawn maintenance side, as far as the mulching and stuff goes, if you've got a pine straw job coming up, but you're also juggling getting your lawns mowed, well, if you've got somebody that's extra labor, hey, send them in a truck. Go ahead and pick up that pine straw if you can hold it in the truck for a little while, and then you have it when you're ready to go do that pine straw job. Or a day that it's raining or it's not good for you to do your chemical application. Well, maybe send your chemical applicator to go pick up the pine straw and do something productive with him that day so that he's helping the other crews stay caught up. And it's really multitasking and making sure that the team is a team and that there's not just single players out there looking for one success. When the whole company wins, everybody wins, because company is a team. When you put that group of people together, you're acting as a team, not one single person. I don't think Tom Brady could have went out there on the football field and been the center, the quarterback, and the wide receiver and not got tackled. There's no way. It wouldn't work. But when you put that team out there, then everybody wins, and next thing you know, you've got a handful of Super Bowl rings, and Bill Belichick's out there flaunting his stuff. But to get back on topic here, before I get sidetracked into the football world, we jump back into the hardscape things, and I remember this when I was learning to kind of take the roles of leadership and project management. One of the hardest things to juggle is having the materials on the site. On a large commercial site where it's new construction, it's not as big of a deal because you've got laydown yards, you've got places to store materials, and so you can really just get everything there and have it stacked on top of each other, and you're not too worried about it, because more than likely the laydown yard is going to get reseeded, regraded, so you're not worried about all the disturbed area, because at the end of the job you're going to clean it up anyways. So the extra pile of rock or the pallets of brick, they're just sitting there waiting on the brick patios to get laid, or the wash pit area, none of that stuff matters to you because you're cleaning it up at the end. But when you're working residential yards and subdivisions on quarter-acre yards that are getting complete renovations, and the driveways are only big enough for the two homeowners to park, well, when you throw in a dump truck, skid steer, your equipment trailer, or your box truck, you throw all that in, you're scattered all down the street. And then you start thinking about, well, man, I've got to get my base material in for the patio I'm building in the backyard. Where am I going to dump all this number 57 stone? I got 20 tons coming in. It's a rather large patio, and it's permeable. We need a lot of base. Where am I going to put it? Well, that's the hard part, because you're running out of space, and so you have to have that job meticulously timed out, and your guys have to know the plan of X is happening first, and then we're going to move to Y, then we're going to move to Z, and then we're going to finish the job. And then all of that has to do with materials and being on the job, because you're out of space. You don't have a lot of room, and so you can't have the brick pavers show up, stock them in the yard, and then next thing you know, you're like, well, where am I going to put the 57? Because my bricks are in the way. So it's time management, making sure that you've got your materials on the job when you need them, you've got them in place when you need them in place, you're working around the weather, the guys know the plan, and then you're scheduling the other materials as you need them. And that's the hardest part to do, because sometimes you cannot, particularly in the landscape industry, you're digging in the ground. So when you're digging out bases, a job that takes one day to dig and prep and you're ready to lay, well, what happens when you find the stump that the building contractor covered up because you didn't know it was there, and now you spend an extra day, but you've already got the truck scheduled to bring your delivery of pavers to you. Well, you better get on the phone real quick and start deciding, do I have room for them, or do I need to try to delay this? And if not, where's the laydown yard that I can use so that I don't delay the job, and be efficient and intentional with your time and your planning of your materials. And so those are things that really come down to a lot of planning. And I've heard this before by someone else, but if you don't have time to do the office work, then it's really hard to do the field work. And that's extremely important. It hits home to me because a lot of times I'm always out there just spearheading projects, trying to get these things knocked out off the list because we're busy. It's the busy season. We never really slow down. We're fortunate enough to work 12 months out of the year, but when springtime hits, we're extremely busy. And so sometimes the office work will back up a little bit, and we're out there spearheading projects, and then the invoices back up. We're not sending out the bills as efficiently as we should, and so therefore we're not being efficient. And so it goes all the way back to the office work. You have to be intentional with your time and dedicate it where it needs to be. And I think one of the most important things that I've learned here recently is, I can't work on the business if I'm working in the business. And I don't mean that by I don't want to work on the field. I mean that with I need to be intentional with my time and making sure that when I'm in the office, I'm dedicated to making sure the office work is done, making sure the plans for the next week are done, making sure the guys know what it is they need to do, making sure that we're efficient with our training, that our training is thoroughly thought out, so that when they get out there, they have no questions. That way that their time is best spent being productive and efficient, and the clients are satisfied, because it's also the client's time. For example, we're going to go over a project we're just finishing up. We had an outdoor pavilion at a country club we were building with some Teco block pavers, a bunch of artificial turf, all built on permeable base. It's right big area. It's about 200 some linear feet long. I think it's about 80 feet wide, and all of this area with artificial turf, pea gravel. It's all built on a permeable base system, so they can work, so that they can have events no matter the rain, snow, sun, or shine. It'll be dry out there. With the snow, they're probably not going to have an event, but shortly after it melts, they'll know that the area will be dry and they can use that area. And so that whole area was built off of the effects of the weather and needing to dry as fast as possible. And the timing of that, if they have an event scheduled for Saturday, it rains Friday, nobody wants to be out there on a wedding walking on mushy ground, getting their shoes all dirty or getting that white dress all messed up. And so landscaping designs are also about time. And this whole project was built and designed around making the quickest turnaround during a weather event, so that the customer could have those events out there. The other aspect of that is they already had a wedding planned for this event as it was getting designed, not getting installed, getting designed. They already had a date. So we had a deadline to hit, which means that all of the stuff we talked about in this entire podcast was, you have to make sure that timing is important. All the subs are lined up. The conversations between us and the general contractor is lined up correctly. The materials show up when they need to be there. If they're not going to be there, we start getting trucks moved, fueled up, and ready to go pick up materials, so that we're not delaying this deadline, because that deadline's hard. They're not changing it. And so we had to be really efficient with time, and the weather wasn't our friend. Fortunately, we built it all on permeable base, and so when it did rain, guess what? The next day we could go out there and work, no matter how wet it was around us, because that entire area had already drained off through all our drainage systems. Time is one of those things that sometimes you cannot always control what's going to happen on the job, but you can control how you react to it and how you plan around it, and how you can put a plan in effect to be efficient with your time that you can control. And what I mean by that is, the meeting the meeting in the morning with the guys, to make sure that they know the plan, that's time that you're spending to be efficient. Planning for the materials in the office and when they should show up, so that they show up when you need them, and you're not just an abundance of materials out there in the way and you have to work around it, because that's going to take more time. Making sure you're communicating with the customer and understanding that their deadlines, what deadlines they have to meet, and all of that stuff is stuff that you can control. And it's because you're going to take your mouth and you're going to do this thing called talking, and you're going to do the things that you should do and communicate with your customer and with your employees and with everyone that is part of your team. And believe it or not, your customer becomes part of your team. When they hire you for a job, they're just as invested in your company as you are with them. And so you have to make sure that time is spent efficiently and that it's productive, so that you can produce satisfied jobs and keep your name growing, keep your business growing and doing well. Because effort of time, I think you guys have picked up on the fact that I'm shooting this in the truck, and as I told you at the beginning of the podcast. But this is an example of me trying to use time that I'm alone in this truck to get this podcast out there, to be intentional with any downtime I have, because we're in the growing season. And so if I'm not in this truck and my phone's not ringing and I'm not taking phone calls, then I'm working in the field or I'm working in the office, which means the podcast is having to fight for our time to record these episodes. Now, don't worry, the podcast isn't going anywhere, and this is an example of that, and proof that we're here to stay and we're here for the longevity of it, is because we're going to use the time we have, which is why we bought this camera, and we're going to make sure that these podcasts are out there. That's why we have the mics. That's why we're building the podcast studio in our shop that I'm hoping I can have done in the next 30 days or so, because we've got some guests lined up that I can't wait to get together with them and get this podcast launched. You know, we're going to talk about the industries they work in and how they merge with the green industry, and I'm excited to have those conversations. It's been kind of a little bit of a delay just getting everyone's timeline to meet, but it's something that we're going to continue to work on until they get on here. And you guys, we don't want to be out here just rambling on about what it is that we just love about the green industry, because I love this industry and I'm passionate about it. But I also want to make sure that the time I spend on this podcast is intentional, it's authentic. And if you guys have something that you want addressed, reach out to us. Reach out to us on our socials, find us on our Facebook, find us on Instagram, follow us on YouTube, comment on our YouTube channels, and let us know what it is you want us to cover. I can promise you that whatever we cover on this podcast will be authentic. There's nothing scripted. There's nothing that we're going to put out like some of the people out there on social media that are in this industry that are just out there for the views. We're not doing this for that. We're doing this to advocate for the industry. We're doing this to advocate for what it is that we love, we have a passion for. So it means that everything that we do is going to be 100% factual to the best of our knowledge, and if it's not, call us out on it. Because guess what? That means that we have some more room to improve, and I want to improve on that. And so call us out when you hear us say something that's not factual or you think it's not. Because guess what? First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go deep dive into that and find out if what I said was either misinterpreted or maybe you misunderstood it, and I'll probably reach back out to you somehow or another to make sure you understand that. So, hope you guys enjoy the podcast. Contact with us, have some engagement, have some conversations with us so that we can make this time as most efficient as we can, and we can advocate for the industry, that you and I, that anyone listening to this that is passionate for the industry, that we have this love for it. And so let's engage. Let's make this thing worthwhile. Let's make this thing a podcast that has meaning behind it. It's not just us up here talking. So with that, I'm going to close this out. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Reach out. See you.